Quiet on the set, please.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
And action!
Welcome to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. If you love old movies, Hollywood history, or the golden age of filmmaking, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast that talks about amazing stories of Tinseltown from another era. Hear fascinating conversations with writer-producer Steve Cubine, who quite literally lives just beneath the Hollywood sign, and actress-writer Nan McNamara. Now your hosts, Steve and Nan.
Welcome, everyone, to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign podcast. So, Steve, we love to talk about Hollywood feuds, right?
We love a good feud, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, so think about the obvious ones. Joan Crawford, Betty Davis.
Betty Davis, Miriam Hopkins.
Orson Welles, William Randolph Hearst.
Betty Davis, and I'm kidding.
Well, one of the more colorful feuds was between powerful gossip columnists Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper. In the golden age of Hollywood, a time when studio moguls controlled the stars and image was everything, these two women had a unique kind of power. They didn't just report on the stars. They often controlled their fates. With readerships in the millions, Parsons and Hopper could build up a star's reputation or destroy it with a single column. But behind the typewritten headlines was a fierce and personal rivalry that spanned decades, defined by ambition, jealousy, ego, and an insatiable appetite for control. Their feud was more than just a battle over scoops, and I don't mean Fritos. It was a high-stakes war for dominance in an industry obsessed with secrecy and spin. Well, I think probably still,
Still
a lot of secrecy, a lot of spin, and one that would leave a lasting mark on the very fabric of Hollywood. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, and in the beginning, there was only one, and that was Luella.
Right.
So Luella Parsons, she was born Luella Rose Oettinger on August the 6th, 1881 in Freeport, Illinois. Her father died when she was just a child, and her mother remarried and moved the family to nearby Dixon, Illinois, where she aspired to be a great writer. While she was in college to become a teacher, actually, she landed her first newspaper job as a part-time writer for the Dixon Star. So by 1902, she was the first female journalist in Dixon.
That's pretty impressive.
I know. In 1902, that's amazing. Well, she made a name for herself by writing about the social activities of the good people of Dixon, which I'm sure laid the foundation for her Hollywood career to come.
Right.
In 1905, she married John Parsons, who was a real estate developer. The following year, they had a daughter, Harriet. And Harriet, she's interesting. She would follow in her mother's footsteps to a degree. She became a journalist herself. She worked for publications like Photoplay and Liberty Magazine and even the Los Angeles Examiner. She later became, and this is so cool, she became one of the very first female film producers working on movies like The Enchanted Cottage, 1945, which I know we both love.
Yep.
I remember Mama, 1948. And Clash by Night, 1952. So very cool about Harriet.
Well, in 1910, Luella landed a job working for $9 a week in the syndication department of the Chicago Tribune. Parsons covered her first murder trial. Coincidentally, it was a murder that took place in her hometown of Dixon.
A lot happened in Dixon.
I guess so. It was a really tragic trial about a drunken 19-year-old who killed a bartender in a rage. Parsons worked her magic and befriended the defendant's girlfriend and wrote a very compelling story about the trial entitled Chains. She ended up selling the story to up-and-coming film production studio S&A for $25. S&A then hired her as a scenario editor.
Well, around this time, Parsons' first marriage ended in divorce. However, she wrote in her autobiography that her husband had actually died on board a transport ship on the way home from World War I. So noble, right?
Yeah, didn't want that taint of divorce.
The truth was he was actually stooping his secretary. She found out, she divorced his ass.
Okay.
But that didn't quite align with her newly adopted Catholic beliefs, so she simply presented a more socially acceptable demise for her ex-husband.
Okay, she was starting that career already back then,
She was. Put spin on it.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't stay single long, though. The following year, she married Jack McCaffrey Jr., who was a riverboat captain.
In 1914, Parsons began writing for the Chicago Chicago Record-Herald, where she launched the very first dedicated movie gossip column in the U.S. However, she lost her job in 1918 after William Randolph Hearst bought the paper and he didn't see a need for a gossip columnist. So Parsons moved to New York and soon began working at the New York Morning Telegraph, where she once again wrote a regular gossip column. In a strange twist of fate, Parsons attracted William Randolph Hearst's attention when he read an interview that she had with his mistress, actress Marion Davies. The interview was very flattering toward Davies, and Parsons urged readers to give this girl a chance, while the majority of critics disparaged Davies because she wasn't a particularly
Maybe wasn't
strong
our
actress.
greatest actress.
Yeah. So this ingratiated Parsons into Hearst's world and began her close friendship with Marion Davies. Hearst saw Parsons as a potentially powerful ally, so in 1923 he offered her a lucrative job as the motion picture editor for his New York American at a whopping $250 a week.
It was pretty clear that Parsons had found a powerful ally in Hearst, and many speculated that Parsons was so entwined in his empire not because of stories she wrote, but because of one story she didn't write. In 1924, after a cruise on Hearst's yacht, director Thomas Ince ended up dead. Although his official cause of death was listed as heart failure, it has long been speculated that Ince was actually killed by either Hearst or one of his cronies for flirting with Marion Davies.
Yikes.
Or, depending on which version you read, he could have been shot by accident, and the intended target was Charlie Chaplin.
Okay.
Whatever happened, Parsons was there, she saw it all, and she didn't write about it.
Okay.
And while this remains probably one of the greatest mysteries of Hollywood, many felt that Parsons was rewarded for her silence by becoming Hearst's premier columnist.
Well, with Hearst's backing, Parsons' power in Hollywood began to grow, earning her the informal title of Queen of Hollywood Gossip. At her peak, her column appeared in over 600 newspapers worldwide,
Wow.
reaching more than 20 million readers. Are there even 6 newspapers across the country anymore?
I know, it's a dying breed.
Studios began to court her to promote their stars and suppress scandalous stories, knowing that Luella could make or break Hollywood careers.
Now, in 1928, with the help of her daughter Harriet, she formed the Hollywood Women's Press Club, which was an original club that was actually started out as a luncheon club for women magazine and newspaper journalists. But in 1941, it started admitting publicists, screenwriters, and other allied professions. And later on, they actually included men.
In 1929, Parsons' rocky marriage to Jack McCaffrey finally came to an end after, in a little bit of a twist here, Parsons had an affair with married New York labor leader Peter Brady, who, according to Dorothy Manners, who was Parsons' assistant for 30 years, Peter Brady was Parsons' one true love. And in true Luella fashion, she simply expunged hubby McCaffrey from the record.
She liked to do that.
Yeah, never mentioning him in her autobiography. Not one to be alone for long, though. The following year, she was hoofing it down the aisle for the third time with Dr. Harry Martin, a wealthy urologist who specialized in treating, wait for it, venereal diseases.
Well, somebody has to.
Right. Martin eventually was employed by 20th Century Fox as their studio doctor, and it makes sense that many believe that he provided his wife, Luella, with confidential information on the stars who went to see him.
Oh, sneaky, sneaky.
Very.
Well, in 1934, Parsons launched a radio program, Hollywood Hotel, where she coaxed these big stars to appear, often compensated with a mere case of Campbell's soup, which was the show's sponsor.
That's so funny.
However, the Screen Actors Guild, they weren't so keen on this, so they stepped in and they demanded proper compensation for these actors who were appearing on the show. Well, this was the end of the show. This killed it. It was soon canceled after that. Her unofficial title, Queen of Hollywood Gossip, was challenged in 1938 by a newcomer, Hedda Hopper, to whom she was initially friendly and helpful. However, they eventually became fierce rivals. Gossip columnist Liz Smith said of the rivals, quote, "The studios created both of them, and they thought they could control both of them. But they became Frankenstein monsters escaped from the lab."
And just who was this young upstart, Hedda Hopper? Well, she was called unpredictable and ruthless, cold-blooded, and a vicious witch.
Oh, she sounds lovely.
Yes, she eventually had a readership that would reach over 20 million. Some say upwards of 35 million. She would reign in Hollywood for nearly 30 years. She also appeared in over 100 films, the last half dozen or so credits playing herself That's how famous she was. She was Hedda Hopper, the hat-donning queen of tattling, whose chatty and catty style allowed those normal folks across the country to feel like they had a behind-the-scenes view of Hollywood.
But who was this Hedda Hopper? She was born Elda Furry in the small Quaker farm community of Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania on May 2nd, 1885 to Margaret and David Furry. Her father was a struggling farmer who sold the farm when Elda was 3. The family moved to Altoona, Pennsylvania, where her father opened a small butcher shop.
Well, Hopper had to quit school in 8th grade to work at the butcher shop. Her mother was suffering from exhaustion and was unable to work. Hopper's father didn't think that Hedda was entitled to a salary, so she stole what she thought her salary should be from the till.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, and she began to save and plan her escape from the butcher life, dreaming of a life in the theater. At 17 years old, Hedda saw Ethel Barrymore in a touring production of Captain Jinks of the Horse Marines, which is such a great title, a romantic comedy, and it was actually Ethel Barrymore's first leading role and made her a star. Seeing Ms. Barrymore, Elda was inspired, and she began practicing dancing in the family barn.
In 1898, Hopper's father deserted the family for the Klondike Gold Rush. He returned less than a year later, and he was penniless. Well, the financial struggles the family experienced really shaped Hedda Hopper's life. Still a young teenager, she took the money she had saved or stolen from the butcher shop, and she ran away to Pittsburgh. Through connections with a friend, she gained entrance to the Carter Conservatory of Music. She wasn't much of a singer, but that didn't stop her. She headed straight to New York, arriving at the age of 22, where she promptly shaved off 5 years from her age, as any good actress would.
Right.
And her first job in New York was in the chorus of a musical comedy produced by the Schubert brothers at the Majestic Theater. Choreographer Ned Wayburn called her, and this is a quote, "the awkwardest cow who ever tried kicking chorus."
Well, Hopper took this criticism to heart, and she took dance lessons. I mean, you got to give it to her. Yeah, she really just had this drive that was just
she was driven.
Unstoppable. She did have great legs, and so coupled with the lessons, she was allowed to stay with the show. Those legs were also noticed by the lead actor in the show, DeWolf Hopper. Hopper was a famous matinee idol and a womanizer, described as the Clark Gable of his day.
Maybe it's appropriate he has Wolf in his first name.
Yes, exactly. DeWolf took a shine to Hopper, and by all accounts, it sounds like she fell in love with him, or at least his voice. She once said of it, it was like some great church organ that women trembled when he spoke with them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
DeWolf was actually 5 years older than Hedda's father, and he already had 4 marriages under his belt.
Wow.
His nickname was the husband of his country.
Okay.
However, Hopper and DeWolf married in 1913. It couldn't hurt that a young actress was now married to a famous theater actor.
In 1915, they had a son named William Hopper, who in later years would become an actor, most famously playing private detective Paul Drake on Perry Mason.
And he's the dad in The Bad Seed.
Yes, he is the dad in The Bad Seed. DeWolf and Hedda continued to work together on stage after they were married and after they had their son. And then she also began working in silent films. Her first credit was the female lead opposite William Farnham in the silent film The Battle of Hearts, 1916. She was quickly typecast, though, as the society woman. In 1918, she decided to take DeWolf's last name, Hopper. So rumor has it, she's still going by Elda, right? So she's Elda Hopper. Rumor has it that DeWolf's previous wives were named Ella, Nella, Ida, and Edna. And DeWolf kept calling her by the wrong name, right?
Well, who could blame him?
I know. So Elda needed a new first name to go with Hopper. So she went to a numerologist, paid the numerologist $10, and suggested that she use the first name of Hedda.
Now, one of Hopper's early roles was in Virtuous Wives from 1918, and the film forged a friendship with a soon-to-be Hollywood player. And this, of course, was Louis B. Mayer, and he co-produced the movie with star Anita Stewart, who was playing the lead. Well, during the early days of the film industry, costume departments were non-existent. And the story goes that Hedda Hopper spent her entire salary of $5,000 on her wardrobe for the film, hoping to take focus away from Anita Stewart. Well, this did not go over well with Anita, but it did give her a boost.
Yes.
She later said, producers who didn't know my name began to say, get what's-her-name who played the rich woman in Virtuous Wives. She'll dress this.
Yeah, that's amazing. By 1920, she had a dozen or so films to her credit. When she was cast in The New York Idea, 1920, starring Alice Brady, she was paid the handsome sum of $1,000 a week.
It's a lot of money for
It's
1920.
A lot of money. When she shared this news with her husband, DeWolf, it was a pretty huge blow to his ego. I mean, he was a star in the theater, but he was not making anywhere near that kind of money. We all know that, right? Theater people don't make any money.
Nothing's changed.
No, nothing's changed. With their marriage already on the rocks, his rage over her salary didn't help matters. Hopper eventually filed for divorce in July of 1923. Shortly afterwards, she and baby Bill moved to Los Angeles, where the booming film industry was thriving.
Louis B. Mayer, whom she knew from Virtuous Wives, signed her in Hollywood to a small contract with MGM Studios. And she was cast in several films, although none of them were the lead roles.
Right.
And it was around this time that she formed a friendship with gossip columnist Luella Parsons. But before we get further into her relationship with Luella, let's take a break.
Let's take a break and let's find out what this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz is.
The pop quiz question today, as we all know, Hedda Hopper was not so well liked by many stars in Hollywood. But which Hollywood star once sent her a live skunk on Valentine's Day with a note that read, "You stink"?
Oh, it's such a good one.
I love this.
I do too. We'll be right back with more about Luella and Hedda after this.
Steve and Ann will be right back, but first another stop on the Hollywood tour. An interesting barometer of just how powerful Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper were at the top of their game. The holiday season. Get this, every year at Christmas time, other Hollywood names, everyone from actors to directors and producers, would head over to the women's homes just to personally drop off gifts. And it was a sight to behold. Paramount producer A.C. Lyles is quoted as saying, "Your car actually had to get in line at their houses just to drop off presents." Actor Tony Curtis recalled, "Inside, their homes were so glutted with gifts, they looked like giant cornucopias with presents tumbling out of closets, walls, and floors." We don't know for sure, but somehow we suspect both women kept track of the people who didn't bring a gift as well. And now back to Steve and Ann from Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we get further into the complicated relationship between gossip columnist Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons, we want to give a shout out, a very special shout out to our listener of the week. And this week we are honoring Tamara Cook from Australia. She's been a listener almost from the beginning and has become such a wonderful friend and supporter of the podcast. She's also a digital creator who has designed a beautiful set of oracle cards, which are similar to tarot cards, called Wild Goddesses of the Screen and Beyond, which features not only ancient goddesses from history, but also screen goddesses like Anna May Wong and Greta Garbo, Marilyn Monroe, Jane Russell. These cards are absolutely stunning, and we'll show them to you on our YouTube channel. If you're interested, you can find these on the internet, or you could private message Tamara directly on her Facebook page, which we'll post in our show notes, and you can order them directly from her. And if you order them directly from her, she'll also send you a card reading. Ooh.
I know.
Which is fun. Yes.
Tamara, thank you so much. That was so kind of you.
We love you. Thank you for all the support.
Good night, Tamara.
Very good. Well, I was really surprised in researching this episode to learn about the friendship between Luella and
they
Hedda.
were friends at first.
They were
at first.
friends. Well, Parsons tried to help Hedda, often mentioning her in her column. This is when Hedda was an actress.
Yeah.
A mention from Parsons could be a real boon to anyone's career. So Hopper then also started writing letters to Parsons about what was happening in Hollywood. So it was kind of this quid pro quo relationship. According to Luella's longtime assistant, Dorothy Manners, quote, "When they first knew each other, Hedda was an actress, a good one. They liked each other a lot. If anything happened on a set, if a star and leading man were having an affair, Hedda would give Luella a call. And then in return, Hedda was guaranteed a few lines of copy under Luella's increasingly powerful byline."
Oh, very mutually beneficial relationship there. Well, Parsons dubbed Hopper the Queen of the Quickies. Whether she was a queen or not, the films were not very memorable, but she was cast in a film starring Marion Davies called Xander the Great in 1925. Well, Hopper and Davies became very good friends, which accelerated Hopper's social standing. She was often invited to Hearst Castle in San Simeon and would spend time with the Hollywood elite, including Luella Parsons.
Well, admirably, Hedda was still taking care of herself son by herself. She had a contract at MGM earning $250 a week. However, she wanted to send her son to military school, private military school. So she also entered the real estate field to supplement her income.
Could you imagine like Hedda Hopper showing you that condo in Marina Del Rey?
Well, apparently she sold the orange fields to Bob Hope and all kinds of
Isn't
people.
that crazy?
She made dozens of films during this time, but really only in small supporting roles. She did have the lead in an experimental early Technicolor short, which I found this fascinating, called Mona Lisa, 1926. She played the title character, and I saw a photo, and it does kind of look like her.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but nothing came of it.
With the advent of talking pictures in 1927, the industry really wanted actors who had voices, and Hopper had a voice.
She did. Oh, man.
You know, it was her theater training. It had given her what we only could describe as this haughty accent. This helped her to be repeatedly cast as either the wealthy socialite type or the dowager. Highlights from this period included playing Greta Garbo's sister in As You Desire Me in 1932.
But even with all the film credits, she's not moving up in the industry with her career as she had hoped. She was getting older, and it meant her dream of being a movie star was slipping away, especially in that time frame,
Yes.
right? A little different nowadays. Not a whole lot different, but a little different. In 1935, MGM releases her from her contract. She took on then several different positions to make ends meet, including real estate, back to real estate again, and working for a cosmetics firm. In 1936, she had a short-lived gossipy radio show that attracted some national attention. And because of this radio exposure, an offer came to write a weekly fashion article about Hollywood for the Washington Post. Luella Parsons even mentioned the offer in her column as a way of helping her friend Hedda.
Hopper's column about Hollywood fashion soon caught the attention of other newspapers and studio heads. The Esquire Syndicate wanted to start their own Hollywood gossip column, and so they hired Hedda Hopper. At first, Hopper seemed no match for Luella Parsons, whose column now appeared in 600 Hearst newspapers and had a readership of around 40 million. Parsons had been the Hollywood gossip queen since the mid-1920s. The studio heads helped build up Parsons, who would sometimes take advantage of her power over them, so the studios were growing tired of this manipulation, and they wanted someone who could come in and be a rival to Luella Parsons, hence Hedda Hopper.
Initially, Hopper's column didn't appear in any Hollywood papers until 1938, when the Los Angeles Times started carrying it. And of course, that was a huge boon for her. Hopper was determined to get the edge over Parsons, and she did it by being extremely outspoken. First, she criticized the casting of Vivien Leigh as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, 1939. Her column read, "It is a slap in the face to every qualified American actress. And what does Leslie Howard, another Brit, know about our South?" I love that, our South.
I know,
Yeah.
Hedda Hopper from the Midwest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's very funny. Hopper, she did call herself the bitch of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, she said it.
You gotta, give her that,
Exactly.
right?
And that style of writing and that bitchiness is what really made her famous.
Yeah.
She also knew it was important to have a personal trademark. She decided that her trademark was going to be hats, as big and outrageous as possible. She owned hundreds of them. She once said, "My motto is toppers for Hopper."
Well, all of this increased Hopper's popularity, but in 1939, she got her first scoop on Parsons with a story involving President Roosevelt's son having an affair and divorcing his wife. This scoop began the feud between the two columnists. It probably didn't help that around this time, Hopper publicly referred to Parsons' husband as that G-damn clap doctor. Ouch! Parsons was not amused.
Oh, I'm sure she was not amused.
I'm amused, but
I think it's hilarious.
So now with two gossip queen rivals on the scene, both women smartly aligned themselves with powerful players in Hollywood. So for Hopper, it was, of course, Louis B. Mayer at MGM. And for Parsons, as we mentioned earlier, it was William Randolph Hearst.
Parsons' loyalty to Hearst was tested when director Orson Welles made his film Citizen Kane in 1941. It was no secret that the main character, Charles Foster Kane, had more than a fleeting resemblance to William Randolph Hearst. In the film, Kane has a scandalous personal life, including a talent-free actress/mistress who many felt mirrored Marion Davies. Parsons famously defended Hearst, using her platform to attack Citizen Kane and to hinder Orson Welles' career. Parsons even threatened to expose the scandals and secrets of other RKO stars if RKO released the film, but the studio stood firm and released it anyway. Hearst newspapers refused to run ads or reviews for the movie, severely hurting its distribution and its box office performance. Welles' career never really recovered from this political blowback. He became something of an outsider in Hollywood. Don't mess with Luella and her poison pen, man.
Well, by 1941, Hopper was making around $100,000 a year, and she had nearly 35 million readers. This just kills me. She would walk into her office in the morning and greet her staff by saying, "Good morning, slaves." She was so well known at this point that she actually graced the cover of Time magazine in 1947 wearing one of her flamboyant hats. And as you mentioned, Steve, the public, they loved her bitchiness.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Hopper seemed to revel in it as well. She would shower love on a star one minute and the next minute viciously criticize them. Now, some of her victims, she had many, many victims. Some were Marlena Dietrich, Errol Flynn, and Charlie Chaplin. When actress Meryl Oberon asked why she wrote such cruel things about her, Hopper replied, "Bitchery, dear, sheer bitchery."
Well, Hopper could also retaliate if you shared your life with her rival, Luella Parsons.
Yes.
Ingrid Bergman found this out the hard way. She told Hopper that she was not pregnant from an adulterous liaison with film director Roberto Rossellini. She then went and told Luella Parsons that she was indeed expecting his child. Well, furious at being deceived and not getting the scoop, Hopper got her revenge by dumping scathing criticism of Bergman. Now, Bergman was later denounced on the floor of the Senate as a horrible example of womanhood and this is a quote, "a powerful influence for evil."
Can you imagine?
Wow.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Well, Hopper also would often print things that just simply weren't true. She once wrote that Joseph Cotton was going to leave his lovely wife for Deanna Durbin. It wasn't true. So Joseph Cotton asked Hopper to stop writing it. She refused. She kept bringing it up in her column. When he saw her later at a Hollywood party, he got up and he gave her a kick in the rear. Some say that he didn't kick her, that he pulled her chair out from under her as she was sitting down, and that it was Spencer Tracy who kicked her backside for spreading gossip about him and Katharine Hepburn. Clearly, there are so many people that have an issue with her. Everybody wants to kick her in the ass.
Somebody kicked her.
Whatever the specifics of the incident, the partygoers' reaction witnessing this was absolutely delicious. According to Joseph Cotton's autobiography, quote, "The room went silent. Then everyone laughed and clapped." Hopper was furious, but she never printed a word about me again.
Well, another time, Hedda Hopper wrote something really negative about Ann Sheridan. And Ann Sheridan, she was known for her fiery personality and her disdain for Hollywood phoniness. Sheridan ran into Hopper at a party or the studio commissary, depending on where you get your story from, and proceeded to dump mashed potatoes on Hedda Hopper's head.
This is how mean Hedda was, because I'm thinking about these people.
Yes.
They're civilized, right?
Right.
It's got to be pretty bad if you're going to dump potatoes.
She can evoke such ire and anger in these people.
Yes. Well, Parsons also did take aim at celebrities, but she kind of reserved her venom for those she didn't feel lived up to the moral standards that she embraced. She targeted Mae West and Clara Bow because of their overt sexuality. Charlie Chaplin was her target, as he was a target of Hedda as well, over his leftist political leanings and his penchant for young girls.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
And also she went after Howard Hughes for his sexy photos of Jane Russell used to promote his film The Outlaw in 1943. Parsons accused Howard Hughes of degrading Hollywood's image.
Oh, that's funny.
That's hysterical. What about all the...
I know.
Yeah,
drug use and adultery and exactly. The debauchery. Many stars grew to resent Luella Parsons for her gossipy reporting, and John Barrymore used to call her the old udder.
Oh, ouch.
And I love this. Roddy McDowall once said that she resembled a sofa.
Oh.
Many other stars like Mary Pickford and Norma Shearer, Clark Gable, Gloria Swanson, Bing Crosby, and Barbara Stanwyck, they were smart enough to recognize Parsons' power more at the Hearst Corporation, so they played nice with her. In exchange, they all mostly received positive press coverage. They knew how to play the game.
Yeah. In 1951, Luella Parsons suffered two major losses in her life with the deaths of her husband, Dr. Martin, and William Randolph Hearst. These deaths coincided with the decline of the studio system, during which Parsons' influence diminished significantly. So Parsons began to focus more on her personal life, and she started dating again popular songwriter Jimmy McHugh, enjoying an invigorated social life. The couple,
Rolling Stone does not gather
I'm
moss.
telling you, this woman, she was really,
Doesn't miss a beat with the men.
Yeah, and she couldn't, because Dr. Martin passed away. She probably didn't change that story, right? The couple, Jimmy McHugh and Luella, were a fixture at parties and premieres and all the popular night spots in Los Angeles.
During the Cold War, Hopper became particularly malicious and detestable, taking it upon herself to call out potential communists during the Red Scare.
Yeah.
She despised liberals. She had only kind things to say about actors who identify with a more conservative political view, like John Wayne. You had to be a Republican or potentially be called out and blacklisted.
Well, by 1950, Hopper is a bona fide celebrity. She appears as herself in Sunset Boulevard.
Great cameo.
Yeah. In 1952, she wrote her autobiography, From Under My Hat. It became a New York Times bestseller. And in 1955, you probably remember this one on the reruns of I Love Lucy, she also appeared as herself in the fourth season. In 1960, the Screen Actors Guild, which is the professional union for actors, went on strike against the 7 major studios. First time this has happened. Hopper sided with the studios, and she had the nerve to attend the strike meeting, which took place at the Pantages Theater,
Now that's ballsy.
arriving fashionably late, walking down the aisle of the theater and sitting in the front row. So everybody saw her. Well, she was roundly hissed by the entire SAG membership in attendance. I love that.
I love that too. Their rivalry really shifted in Hopper's favor in 1962 when Luella Parsons' newspaper, the Los Angeles Examiner, folded and her column was transferred to the Hearst afternoon paper, the Los Angeles Herald Express. This meant that she lost the edge to Hopper's appearance in the morning paper, the Los Angeles Times. Meanwhile, Hopper published her second book in 1963, The Whole Truth and Nothing But, which is not a very apt title, if you ask me. It was also featured on the New York Times bestseller list. In the book, she hinted at this love affair between actors Stuart Granger and Michael Wilding. Well, Wilding sued Hopper for $3 million in 1964. He won the case and received $100,000, along with a promise for deletions of the libelous passages in any future printings of the book. Hopper never really recovered from this lawsuit.
Well, Parsons continued her column until December 1965, when it was actually taken over by her longtime assistant, Dorothy Manners, who had already actually been writing the column for more than a year. Just a few years after publishing her second autobiography, Hopper's health began to decline. In 1966, she had heart problems, she developed pneumonia, and fell into a coma. And after nearly 3 decades of being one of the most powerful forces in Hollywood, she died on February 1st, 1966, of double pneumonia, the same day as Buster Keaton, her co-star in 3 films. Her funeral was private, with only her son and her staff attending.
Now, as for Luella Parsons, in her later years, she lived in a nursing home. She passed away from arteriosclerosis on December the 9th, 1972 in Santa Monica, California at age 91. Now, she's buried in Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City. Unlike Hopper, her funeral was a star-studded event with attendees that included Bob Hope, Irene Dunn, George Burns, Dorothy Lamour, Danny Thomas, Jack Benny, Cesar Romero, and David Jansen. In the end, the legendary feud between Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper was more than just a battle of bylines. It was really this defining clash of ambition and ego and influence played out in Hollywood's golden glare. Though time would eventually blur their names into the annals of old studio lore, their impact on celebrity culture endures, echoing in every headline that blurs truth and spectacle. Rivals to the end, Luella and Hedda never surrendered the stage, and each determined to have the final word, even if it meant they wrote it themselves.
You know, I'm trying to think. There's nothing really like them anymore. I mean, social media can certainly affect your career. People are called out for different
But there's no
forms.
one person who has
There's
that
no
much
one
power
person.
and influence and can control the fate of stars.
I mean, even the trade magazines, even Hollywood Reporter and Variety, they don't really have the power that they once did, even probably 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So
now it's like just the court of public opinion, I think, determines a lot of the things that Hedda and Luella used to control.
Yeah. Well, I'm really kind of glad that there aren't people like that in power. At least we hope not in Hollywood. Steve, let's share with our listeners this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz.
And of course, the question was, Hedda Hopper was not so well liked by many stars, but who was the star who sent her a live skunk on Valentine's Day with a note that read, "You stink"?
That would be Ms. Joan Bennett.
I like her style.
I like her style, too. That's pretty sassy.
I know, love it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, everybody, for spending this time with us. We would love it if you would give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you watch us on YouTube, we hope you'll give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, please follow us on social media. Our handle is @FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram.
And we love getting your emails. Please keep them coming. You can email us at info@FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com.
That's this week's View.
From Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
You've been listening to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign with Steve Cubine and Ann McNamara, the podcast that celebrates amazing stories of Tinseltown from its golden era. Join us next week for another episode and learn something else about Hollywood you probably never knew. Take a moment and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, and tell your friends about us too. It'll help grow the podcast. Visit Steve's website at FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com. The executive producers are Steve Cubine and Nan McNamara. Executive producer and post-production supervisor Lindsay Schnebley. Associate producer and researcher John Price Ritchie. This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to their other fine shows like The Box of Oddities and The Shallow End with Schnebley and Toth. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved. That's a wrap.
Thanks, everyone, for... wait, hold on. I'm not going to thank anybody yet.
No thanks.
Steve, let's share with our listeners.
I think I talked over you.
Okay.